Hi everyone, it's Kerry-Jean again. Something a little bit different today, not papercraft and card making and scrapbooking. Today I want to share my typography. I call it typography and calligraphy, but I sort of cheat a lot. Now, I've been doing typography since I was about 10 or so as a just as a hobby, just something I do every now and again. And I started up again last year when I was quite ill, and my psychologist that I was seeing suggested I make up posters, positive affirmations, these sorts of things. So one of the pardon me, one of the statements that my psychologist had me try and bring into my own thought process was the power of so what, because I'd get hung up on things. So I thought it'd be helpful to actually have this with me all the time. And as I have recently gotten into Midoris, one of the booklets I made was a sketchbook with sketch paper. It was a really quickly made one, so it's a little bit rough and it's not quite the right size and whatnot, but it was white paper to draw on. Now, I try and do all sorts of fonts and typography designs and everything like that, I don't follow any academic process or the right process, as you may say. I just sort of do what I do, and that's how I work. So I would play around with different ideas, play around with different mediums and pens and different ideas. This is the actual title of my next paper collection that I'll be putting out on my my Etsy store. This is an old technique I was doing about 6 or 7 years ago. And then I started doing these types of pages, and I started putting them up on a Midori forum on Facebook, group on Facebook. And I had a few people ask me to do a post, or how did I do it, where did I learn it. I'm self-taught. Now, I'm also dyslexic, and my handwriting isn't that great. Doing this type of form of writing is kind of nice because I actually start off with working with a pencil or a pacer or mechanical pencil, and I rough it out and I get a layout using that technique first. One of my favorite sayings. Another one of my favorite sayings. So I realized I started putting in a lot of positive affirmations, positive statements, statements which relate to my personal thoughts and beliefs. So that was the sketchbook, and I was, you know, having a real ball in that. And then this is one of my, let's find a page. This booklet is one of the ones I've constructed from my collection of Café au lait that I literally was going to keep as a notebook, but it's ended up becoming a bit of a sketchbook and a bit of photo book as well. So I did this one in here, which is, it doesn't matter what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And it sort of cascaded from there. This was another one I did. I really enjoyed doing this because it was a full spread, slightly bigger page. And I really just take quotes or statements that I find resonate with me. So there is one here. It's in pencil still because I'll actually do it in pen on camera. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. So I'm going to show you how I do the inking. And there's one back here. This is another, never lose sight of the fact that just being is fun. I'm actually going to do the layout of that one now, so you can see how I do it. I might choose a slightly less busy page. Let's go with that one there. So I'm going to turn off the sound and just draw away, and you can watch what I do. If you have any questions, any feedback, please feel free to leave a comment. And also I'll leave the blog entry in the description as well, because I'm going to do a whole blog entry. I follow a lot of Instagrammers, so there'll be a list and links to these Instagrammers, and also some photos of the pages I've done, and hopefully it'll inspire you. I enjoy doing the style of typography I do. I don't, as mentioned, do it the proper way in terms of how it's done in industry, because typography is, it's about letter setting and typesetting and stuff like that, and doing posters and that, and what words you want to pop and things like that. I will also put in the description, or in the blog post, a couple other videos I found about hand lettering, which I found there was bits and pieces out of it that resonated with me, that I found could be helpful. The parts of it that just didn't really mean anything to me. But you can take out of this what you want, and if you want to give it a go, give it a go. It's not hard, it just requires, you know, a little bit of an imagination and a bit of time and sort of that thing. So the first thing I usually get asked is, what do I use? So a pencil, or I use a mechanical pencil. It's a Rotring, it's a 0.7 mil, and I like the weight of it in comparison to a pencil, which I find a bit light. I've been using a Pacer for years. I also use that's an eraser, one of these ones. I like these rather than the big squares, because I can get a nice edge. Now, in terms of pens, you can use whatever pens you find comfortable, affordable, so on and so forth. Just remember, whatever paper you're working on, some inks will bleed, some inks won't. So test out and see what works for you. So pens that I like using are these Uniball waterproof ones. I've been using these for a while. Also just the Artline 0.4, sorry. Those are quite nice. I recently found Bic permanent markers. It's a fine, ultra fine. You can never go too far wrong with Sharpies. Sharpies are quite awesome. And I also sometimes use, and I don't have them with me unfortunately, but actual technical drawing pens. I will bring them through in a moment, and I will end up showing them to you. I've also been using those for a very long time. Both my parents were draftsmen, so I would end up getting their old pens. The set I've got at the moment, which I just cleaned up recently, were actually my mother's, and they just get a really nice flow of ink, and if you get the right ink or a really good ink, you've got a really great tool there. It also means that you're not having to buy a new pen every time. You just need to buy a bottle of ink, which lasts forever. These retail in Australia for around about $5 each, or you can get a set of, I think it's 5 for about 15. But again, these ones, if they dry out, you have to buy a new one, which is why I sort of like the technical pens. Sharpies and the Bic Market are quite awesome. I really like them. I tend to use them for general writing. But yes, they do bleed through the page, which is quite annoying. So realistically, find what works for you. If you work better with a ballpoint pen, which I don't, use a ballpoint pen. So it all comes down to what feels good for you. You're doing this for fun, so make sure it is fun. And that's the most important piece. This isn't homework. This isn't a project. This isn't expected. It is meant to be fun. It is meant to be self-expression. So let's get started. Before I get started, I just wanted to show you those technical pens, which are these. These are Faber-Castells, and these are quite old. They were my mother's set, as I mentioned. I've also used Rotring rapid graph pens, which I've had a set of those for a very long time, but unfortunately, because they're cartridges, you have to buy their cartridges. It just became too expensive. These ones are awesome because you fill the cartridge up with your own ink, so you can use whatever ink you want, which I find a lot more affordable, because instead of buying 3 cartridges for $12 Australian, I can buy a giant big bottle of ink, which will last me for a very long time, and fill these up. So it became a bit more economical. So I've got different weights. With these ones, they've got a nib that you can actually feel it rattling. So as you push down, you get your ink come through. I like them because it's a really crisp line. They feel really good. So that one was a 0.25 mil. This is a 0.3 mil. So it's slightly thicker. I am really liking the ink that I got. So this is a 0.5. I just really like how the nib works. And then I've got a 0.7. You can also get a lot thicker. So that one's really great for your fill. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to get started on doing a pencil layout. So before I put on any music, I'll explain how I do my layout. You can do this again any way you want. I'm just showing you how I like to do my layout, and if I show you that one, which is a really great one for layout, I'm not sure how I came up with it, but it worked. So you can sort of see everything's enclosed in a bit of a rectangle. I'm looking at my page and I'm looking at what I'm writing, and there's actually quite a lot of writing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and use up the whole page. But the best thing to do is sort of find the center of the page, which will help you get a bit of a feel for, you know, where you want things to sit. And because I've done this for so long and I sort of know how I want to work, and, you know, not the proper way of working and stuff like that, which just irritates me a little bit. There's no right and wrong way to do things, there's just different ways of doing things, in my opinion. So I'll do a centre line, and I'll sort of start off from there. So looking at the statement, which is never lose sight of the fact that just being is fun. I know through that I want being to be big and bold and the point of the statement, and it's going to be around about here. So a couple ways. The way I used to start is I'd line everything out, but these days I've sort of I'm trying to take away a bit of the technical side of it and just sort of be a little bit more free. So from here I'll just sort of start working with where I want things to sit, and we'll go from there.
Academy. Your doorman thinks she has a boyfriend.
If you can call him that. Apparently he travels a lot.
I've heard that excuse before.
Charlotte's very protective of him. I barely got his first name out of her. I've never even seen a photo of him.
Do you know what he does for a living?
He's some sort of an...
Hey everyone, so this is the final product. Please excuse the fact that I'm on a different setup. I have gone and damaged my knee, so I cannot work at my craft table at the moment. So in the end, this is how I decided to do the font for this layout. And it's come out really, really great. And I'm really happy with the ink that is in those mechanical pens that I showed you, because that was new ink that I put in there. And I will also show you, oh, where is it? That's the other one that I showed a pen drawing, pencil layout of. So I hope you like, and I hope that you find a bit of inspiration and give your own typography a try and see what you come up with. You'll find a whole lot of links as well for Instagrammers that I follow. If you do typography, if you search typography on Google, in the images section, you'll find heaps. Okay? Thank you very much, and happy crafting.